From Transport Topics in Washington, D.C., this is RoadSigns. Here is your host, Seth Clevenger.
Thank you for listening to RoadSigns, the podcast series from Transport Topics that explores the trends and technologies that are shaping the future of trucking. In this episode, we're going to examine the rise of smart trailer technology. Basic trailer location tracking has existed for many years, but more recently, this technology has expanded to capture a much greater amount of information about the trailer and the freight inside. Today, smart trailer technology is enabling fleets to monitor cargo status, tire pressure, and a long list of other data points. But how can trucking operations use this information to truly improve fleet management? To help us answer that question, we're excited to bring in Siamak Azmoudeh, Vice President of Product Lifecycle Management and Business Development at Skybitz, a provider of asset tracking technology for trucking operations. Welcome, Siamak.
Great to be here.
So over the past several years, trailer tracking technology has really expanded and evolved into the current concept of smart trailers that can capture and report data on so much more than just location, right? Fleets today can install sensors that track whether the trailer is loaded or unloaded, when the trailer door opens, and report some key maintenance information, just to give some examples of what's possible today. So from your vantage point at Skybitz, just how far has trailer telematics advanced during the past 10 years or so?
Great question, Seth. If you go back 10 years, which I've been with Skybitz 12 years, but in the industry much longer than that. If you go back 10 years, the concept of trailer tracking was really looked at as a luxury. It wasn't something that you did as a normal course of business. It was more around, hey, I lose the trailer here, I lose the trailer there. It would be nice to know where it is. And the whole concept of, it used to be, how many pings a day do I get? It was more like like I said, a luxury where some fleets were investing in that level of technology. It really has evolved a lot since then, obviously, because now people really value their trailers. They want to manage it. They want to get a lot more productivity out of that trailer. So much has happened over the last 10 years, both in terms of the technologies that are available and then the need for automation, right? So when you combine those two things together, it has really driven the technology suppliers like us to deliver a lot more value, a lot more capability, a lot more visibility to what's going on with that asset, so that you can maximize your investment, really. And even in the last 3-4 years, because of the supply chain issues, capacity problems, it just has even put more emphasis on the need for automation, on the need for the technology to drive that level of productivity up.
Yeah, and as you said, there was a time not so long ago when trailer tracking was a luxury. It was something that maybe some of the more advanced operations used, but certainly not something you saw across the industry. And I think that looking back, traditionally, the adoption of onboard technology in the trucking industry has focused on the tractor first and the trailer second. But when you look at the market today, clearly the trailer is catching up in many respects. So what's your best estimate today for the percentage of trailers in our market that are equipped with at least some level of tracking capabilities, and what factors have driven adoption upwards?
Great. I think right now, I would estimate somewhere around 40% to 45% of the trailers are equipped. There's still some segments of the market that haven't really started adopting the technology as much as they can. But I think I can see that changing, and the adoption rates are going up. Again, if you look at really the economy downturn a few years back, looking at the pandemic, looking at driver shortage is still a issue. Driver satisfaction is a big factor for all our clients. When you look at what all of those requirements are driving customers or driving the industry really to more automation, better visibility, faster turns on trailers, be able to get longer life out of trailers because it's not easy to get trailers nowadays. So I think adoption rate of the technology has really increased because of a lot of these factors, right? People are looking at, like I said, it used to be a luxury. Now it's a necessity. And it's now a matter of what supplier do I want to use? What solutions they're providing, what capabilities they're providing, rather than do I need the technology, right? And the smaller carriers are starting to realize the need for that as well, because it was originally kind of more of a larger fleets where you have a lot of trailers to manage. Now that's coming down to even the smaller carriers, because again, to need to automate, the need to keep your drivers happy, um, making sure that you don't have any misses, sending drivers after trailers that are not available. I mean, all of those factors are driving the adoption up.
And I guess the second part of that question is, how many fleets are now starting to move beyond, the basic, location tracking capabilities and more toward that smart trailer vision that we see emerging with more sensors, richer data on a variety of metrics. Is that still in the early adoption phase today? And, how quickly do you see that expanding, to more of that smart trailer concept?
Great question. I think if I go back 7, 8 years ago, so a very small portion of our shipments included things like cargo sensing, okay? Because people still were thinking about, oh, I just need to know where my trailer is. That's okay. That has changed drastically, right? Now, most of our shipments include cargo sensing, include the more advanced tracking. So it takes time for people to start really adapting the newer technologies and bringing in the data and learn how to use that data to advance their operations. But I think the pace of that is picking up. I think over the next 4 or 5 years, you'll see that carriers exist. Continuously are going to go beyond just the basic tracking. Cargo sensing is becoming more the norm rather than an addition. Um, and then other technologies are coming to bear where the prices are a lot lower. The technology is more reliable. So I think adding those two things together, I think you're going to see a faster adoption of beyond just the tracking going on the next 3 4 years. And then really I still think it's a little bit early when it comes to other types of sensors. When you're trying to look at tire sensors or brake sensors or the different sensors. I think that's in the early adoption, because there's still questions around the technology, the upkeep, the investment required, the ROI. So I think that's going to take a little longer to become more of a standard. But things like cargo sensing, door sensing, those type of things, I think going to be a lot faster.
From time to time, an issue commands so much of the industry's attention that it requires a deeper dive, a resource readers can turn to, a Transport Topics special report. We're turning our attention to another big issue, electrification and the key factors that will drive this industry trend. In every case, we're working to provide our readers with information, analysis, and clarity on key issues confronting fleets. One comprehensive resource packed with insights that can give you the edge. Transport Topics invites you to learn more about our special reports. To reserve your copy of the latest special report, visit ttn.ws/electrification.
Of course, when we have all these sensors coming in, your customers now can gain access to more and more data on their trailers. And, the next step beyond that, of course, is to find ways to fully utilize that information to actually drive better business decisions. It's one thing to collect the data, it's another thing to use it. So tell us a little bit more about how you're using data analytics at Skybitz to help your fleet customers actually harness all this information to improve their operations.
Great question. I mean, the sensors and tracking by itself really doesn't do anything if you don't use the data to change the way you work, right? I mean, you have to learn how to utilize that data to drive productivity. So what we've done at Skybitz, and honestly, it's a continuing thing. It's never ending, right? But what we've done so far is we've built an analytics platform for our customers to be able to get metrics, to set KPIs, to understand where they are today in terms of performance and what their goals are, and they're able to set up KPIs to see how they're achieving those goals. Everything from what is your idle status? What is your mileage usage? How many trailers do you have that fall into low utilization? How many are overutilized? helping them understand how to balance their network better so that you don't end up with all your trailers in one side of the country where you need freight on the other side. Learning how to utilize that data is really key. How to manage, understanding, for instance, where in your network, where's your trouble areas? Where are you slow in turning trailers? Where are you taking too long to load a trailer? What is your average load time? So think about all that data that is collected on a day-to-day basis and being able to put historical trends together so that you can see if your overall performance is increasing, and then throw the seasonality in there, right? So we're using a lot of data analytics to help customers understand how they're utilizing their trailers and what areas they need to focus on to improve.
Yeah, for sure. And next up, I want to dive into one specific data point, and that's driver detention time. And I bring that up because not only is that has that been a major industry pain point for a long time, but with driver recruiting and retention really being such a huge priority right now, especially in the years that have followed with the pandemic. The challenge of recruiting and retaining drivers has only gotten worse, and maybe that's eased up a little bit this year. I hear, at least anecdotally, fleets are still looking for ways to address anything that makes drivers dissatisfied or less productive. So just take us through how your customers are using telematics data to address things like driver detention time and support detention charges, for example.
Driver satisfaction and improving performance is one of the keys that our customers focus on, and a lot of that driver satisfaction or dissatisfaction on productivity can come from sending drivers after trailers that are not available. I mean, the number one thing that you want to do is make sure that when you're using your drivers, that you're sending them after something that's roadworthy, available, empty, ready to go. The worst thing you can happen is having a driver chase trailers during the day is that really leads to a lot of dissatisfaction. We call that a miss in our terminology. And what we're really trying to do is help our customers, and most of our customers are using the data to avoid misses. That's the number one thing. The technologies that we've introduced, even today, we have even advanced technologies on the cargo sensing, for instance, that shows you an image of the cargo and shows you can get a real time view of the trailer to make darn sure it's empty, that somebody didn't leave an empty pallet in there, or you're trying to make sure that driver's time is used for the most productive action, not wasted. And so that's one area that I think our customers are able to do that. Secondly, it's really more of a customer satisfaction as well, because if you have trailer pools that are unproductive, you have trailers sitting around, or customers that are waiting on trailers. I think the whole aspect of being able to manage the trailers better not only drives better driver satisfaction, but also is a better customer service, and allows you to reduce the number of times you have to go to your customers and ask for detention. Nobody gets rich on detention. Everybody does that. It is a necessity. But what you're really trying to do is avoid it, right? And the technology that we provide and the analytics that we provide is really driven to help you avoid those scenarios. But when they do happen, then you have enough data and enough proof that helps you collect those better, right? So it's really become a necessity in terms of managing driver time.
I'd like to follow up on some of your comments on asset utilization as well. So as you mentioned earlier, trailer manufacturers have not been immune to all the supply chain disruptions we've seen over the past couple of years, right. To say the least. It's not just on the power unit side; it's also the trailer makers. Where it's a real struggle at times to get the components and materials they need. So fleets, in many cases, have had to wait a lot longer than usual to take delivery of new trailers. And really, when you think about it, that puts even more pressure on fleets to utilize their existing equipment as efficiently as possible. So, from what you've seen in the market, have these types of supply chain challenges and just increase the urgency for fleets to improve asset utilization and get the most out of their existing trailer fleet.
Absolutely. I think people are our industry is becoming more and more and more driven towards automation, towards being able to get more out of your assets. The whole shortage of drivers, shortage of capacity, it just drives you to get more out of what you have. You have to either you have to downsize your business, or you have to learn how to get more out of what you have. And I think most our industry is pushing for more automation, better visibility. Even with the technologies that we provide, if you look at the true idle time, how often trailers are sitting, we still have quite a bit of idle, right? I mean, if you especially in a drop and hook scenario, we still have trailers sitting too long. Now, some of that obviously it's just the nature of the business, but I think that there's still a lot more that carriers can do to turn their assets faster. And if you do that, then you really increase your fleet size without having to spend any capital.
Right. It's a way to wring more capacity out of out of the system,
Yeah.
for sure. And another aspect of this this movement towards smart trailers that we see is the move toward more data-driven trailer maintenance. So could you give us some examples of how telematics data can improve trailer maintenance?
Absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of discussions have been done in that area. There's a lot of hype around the capabilities of getting access to data. So think about, if you look at a trailer and you look at all the components on the trailer and you try to prioritize, where do I spend the majority of time spending maintenance dollars or maintenance time? Things like tires pop up right away. There's tires impact a lot of things. Tires impact availability of the trailer. Tires impact fuel efficiency. Tires impact safety. So there's a lot of things that a tire sensor technology with the right data can help you manage that your tires better. Things like brakes, for instance, if you have access to how the brake pads are performing, so that you can bring that trailer in for a PM a lot, before that problem becomes bigger and bigger and bigger, or leads to a safety issue. You can be ahead of the game and bring in that trailer in for repair before something major happens. So there is definitely a need for access to this information and then translating it into data that you can drive predictability better. You can look at reducing your maintenance costs at the same time improving your availability of assets, right? But it's still a little bit of work to be done to drive efficiency in those sensors, to drive the cost down, to make it more reliable and not a maintenance issue by itself. I mean, the last thing you want to do is invest in technology that increases your maintenance rather than helping you decrease it, right? So some of this technology, even though it sounds great, we still have to look at the practicality of it, making sure that it's something that's manageable as fleets invest in this new technology.
Transport topics in one word: authoritative.
Knowledge.
Outstanding.
Reliable.
We asked Transport Topics readers to describe us in one word.
Informative.
Informative.
Integrity.
The Bible. Authoritative.
The authority.
Transportation information, that's two, but I gotta have it both.
Physically large. Oh, that's two words.
Visit influence.ttnews.com/say hello to find out what they're talking about.
And another key consideration for this type of technology has always been power management. For these units that you use to track trailers or intermodal containers and other assets, and we've seen a shift towards solar power tracking devices in recent years. But tell us about the power management options that are available today and how that's changed over the years. Of course, from the earlier systems to what we have today.
Really, a lot of things have changed over the years, right? I go back again 10 years, 12 years. I actually used the Skybitz's early technology when I was in trucking. A lot of those devices started out. I mean, the biggest challenge for companies like Skybitz is power management, because you know our business is managing unpowered assets. So number one, we don't have power, so we have to figure out how to provide that power. We started early on, 10, 12 years ago. We had units that had batteries that you had to go replace those batteries. I mean, we've learned really quick that in our industry, that's just not going to work, because, trailers, containers, chassis, you're just not going to get access to them that often to be able to maintain things and change batteries. And it just becomes very inefficient. And going back to what I was talking about before, it becomes a maintenance issue in itself. And that's not what you want. So the technology has really been looking for better ways to provide enough power to deliver the level of visibility customers need, but not be something that in itself adds more maintenance. So solar panel or solar energy is a natural source of power, because the trailers are exposed, the containers are out there in the field. It just makes sense to use solar energy, and that really what we've learned how to do really well is how to harness that energy, how to use intelligence and in the device itself to better manage the power, right? Because the last thing you want to do is provide a system that goes dark, because if it goes dark, then you lost the whole benefit of having telematics on your trailer, right? So the whole idea of using solar panel or solar energy to recharge batteries was to provide a continuous source of power, something that can last long enough that you don't have to worry about it. It's basically install it and go away and just use the data, right? That's really what you want. So solar energy is really the best way to go to do that. There's still chances you can tether a device to the 7-way and get power through the tractor power. We always find that to be unreliable, to be honest. There's too many variants. There's many cases where you didn't wire it correctly, or some tractor is not providing power because the fuse is not working. There's a lot of reasons why we have migrated more and more towards solar energy as the main power source, and then recharging the batteries. And what we found is when you harness that power properly, when you have a large enough battery in the device, and you have intelligence in the device to use that power intelligently, then we've been able to really provide a solution that lasts a long time, and is able to provide high visibility, high frequency reporting, and give you a platform that you can build on. Because a lot of things today, you may decide to deploy telematics, but you haven't decided that you're going to say add additional sensors. And what you don't want to do is have to, every time you want to add a sensor, have to replace your telematics. So the whole idea of what we've worked on at Skybitz, at least, is building a platform using solar energy, using intelligence in the device to allow not only great visibility, but give you a platform to build on.
One other question I wanted to bring up about the broader telematics market. We've seen some of the trailer manufacturers in recent years introduce their own connected trailer platforms, and this is already a pretty competitive market. So even more players involved in tracking and managing smart trailers moving into the future. So, in your view, what types of smart trailer technologies and capabilities do you think make sense to be factory installed by the trailer maker, and what works better as a third party or aftermarket option from a third party vendor? And how do you see this ecosystem in this market evolving with more and more players, and also a lot of growth and interest from the market?
Wow, loaded question. So let's dive in. First of all, if you're speccing a new trailer and you have adopted a telematics platform for your fleet, it's always makes sense to have that telematics installed at the factory, because then your trailer is coming out ready to go. And when you feed it, because when you think about automation, you think about using technology. What you really want is consistency. You don't want half of your fleet to be one way, half of it another way, or this trail. You want consistency, because then people can rely on the data and they can make better decisions with that data and not get distracted because of different system availability on this trailer versus that trailer. So it really does make sense to have your telematics installed at the factory. We've had a partnership with all OEMs forever, and they've been installing our telematics, and that's going to continue, because a lot of the fleets, again, when they make a decision on a telematics provider, then they'll have any new trailers that they spec, they'll spec with that telematics on it. So I don't see that changing. And I think a lot of when you think about the new sensor technologies, the smart trailer, I think a lot of that is just going to be happening at the OEMs. It's not going to be. It's difficult to think about retrofitting an entire fleet with a sensor. Not that it can happen, but it is a lot more challenging. So I think the relationship with OEMs is going to continue. I think most of the customers, as they spec trailers, are going to spec the telematics provider and then add the sensors. Again, sensors are a lot easier to install at the OEM. I think that's going to continue to evolve as more and more automation comes around, and people are investing in more sensors.
But before we wrap up our conversation, I'd like to end with a question, about the future of trailer monitoring. We've seen a lot in the last 10 years, so I think it's pretty fun to envision where this technology will go 10 years from now. So what are your thoughts on that, Siamak? How do you see, telematics, and asset tracking in the trucking industry? What do you envision, 10 years from now, both in terms of industry adoption and capabilities?
Honestly, I think this is going to continue. The trend has been on a steep increase because of the things that we talked about already in terms of capacity requirements and people trying to get more out of their trailers. I don't see that slowing down. I think that's going to continue to grow. I think automation is going to be the key. We already are talking a lot about autonomous vehicles, autonomous driving. Well, that level of intelligence is going to require a more intelligent trailer. It's just natural. So I think over the next 10 years, you're going to see a lot more evolution of the trailer technology, if you would. And companies like Skybitz are investing heavy in learning, where to take the technology, what other technologies can we bring to bear to make visibility even higher, provide predictive analytics so that you can keep that trailer up and running a lot longer, and provide for a automation scenario where you don't even have a driver involved, because that now things are I think are going to continue in that trend. So hence a lot of reasons really why at Skybitz we've put so much emphasis on building a platform that can expand, because I don't have a crystal ball. I think that the trend is going to continue. I think people are going to start looking at more and more sensors, automating that trailer even more. But we don't really know exactly when that's going to happen or what that's going to require. So building a platform that you can build on and add sensors was really key for us in setting the path forward over the next 5-10 years, so that as our customers are getting more automated, they can utilize what we've already built to add more sensors to drive that automation. So that's really one of the keys that we have worked on to set the path forward and allow our customers that growth that could come down the road.
Yeah, well, it'll be fascinating to watch, and I think you're right. It's hard to have a smart tractor, pairing with a dumb trailer. So, the trailer needs to keep up with all the advancement we've seen with the power units as well. Hey, this has been a great conversation. I think we've reached a good stopping point here, so I'll leave it there. But thanks again, Siamak, for joining us and sharing your insights. Really appreciate the conversation.
Great. Thank you very much. My pleasure.
Did you know you can ask Alexa to open Transport Topics? In just 1 minute, you will hear the biggest trucking headlines of that day. Be prepared and start your morning off right with Transport Topics.
Before we close, let's take a moment to revisit our original question. How is the rise of smart trailer technology changing fleet management? As we've discussed during the course of this episode, trucking companies can now gain access to a wealth of data on their trailers. Armed with this information, fleets can take action to improve asset utilization, support detention charges, enhance trailer maintenance planning, and even save drivers from having a bad day by preventing them from hooking up to the wrong trailer. While industry adoption of full-fledged smart trailer technology is still in its early days, it's becoming clear that trailers are beginning to catch up to the telematics technology installed on modern trucks. The trailer of the future will be smarter and more connected. If you've enjoyed this episode of Road Signs, please let others know. Rate and review us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If my questions have sparked questions of your own, share them with me and the Road Signs team. You can email us at share@ttnews.com. We'll read them and respond daily. And of course, we'll be back in 2 weeks with a fresh episode of Road Signs. Until then, I'm Seth Clevenger. Thank you for listening.